The trade that shocked the league didn't make sense. Not until the ping pong balls settled months later. Why would the Mavericks trade a 24-year-old global superstar to the Lakers for an aging big man? Luka for AD? What's going on? The Mavericks missed the playoffs. They had less than a 2% chance in the draft lottery, and still landed the number 1 overall pick, likely to be Cooper Flagg. And for conspiracy theorists everywhere, including us, that was the moment it all clicked. The number 1 pick was part of the deal. It wasn't just a rebuild, it was a setup. The Lakers get their star, the Mavs get their future, and the NBA, it gets a great story. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. The suspicion goes all the way back to 1985, when the New York Knicks won the first ever draft lottery. A struggling team in the league's biggest market. A generational big man, Patrick Ewing, and a frozen envelope selected by Commissioner David Stern. No hard proof, but a legacy born. And ever since, fans have asked the same question. Is the NBA draft lottery really random, or is it part of the script? To understand the suspicion surrounding the NBA draft lottery, you have to go back to the very beginning, 1985. That was the first year the NBA used a lottery system to determine who would get the number 1 pick. Before that, the league used a simple coin flip, just the worst team from each conference, heads or tails, for the top pick. But after years of blatant tanking, the league needed a new system, one that would feel more fair, more random, more dramatic. Enter the draft lottery. 7 teams, 7 envelopes, each representing one of the non-playoff teams. They were all dropped into a big, clear drum and spun around like a game show, and David Stern, the commissioner himself, stepped up to draw. What happened next is now part of basketball conspiracy canon. The envelope he pulled was for the New York Knicks, a struggling franchise, a massive media market, the mecca of basketball, and a draft class with a generational big man waiting at the top, Patrick Ewing. The league couldn't have scripted it better, which of course is exactly why some people think they did. The conspiracy theory that one envelope was frozen or had a bent corner so Stern could find it by touch, that the entire lottery was a performance, a setup, a way to save the Knicks, and by extension, boost the league's visibility in its biggest media market. Is there hard proof? Not really. Is it believable? Absolutely. Because the Knicks were bad, and Ewing was great, and the NBA needed a star in New York. That was the moment fans stopped seeing the lottery as random and started seeing it as strategic, a mechanism not for fairness, but for narrative control. And once you see it that way, everything else starts to look suspicious too. After the Ewing lottery in '85, the conspiracy didn't go away. It just evolved from a frozen envelope to a pattern of outcomes that always seemed a little too perfect. And to be fair, it's not hard to see why. 1993. The Orlando Magic, fresh off drafting Shaq, win the lottery again with just 1.5% odds. They flipped that pick for Penny Hardaway, and suddenly, a brand new expansion team becomes box office gold. The NBA needed to prove expansion could work, and it did. 1997. The Spurs lose David Robinson to injury, bottom out, and win the Tim Duncan sweepstakes. 2 years later, Duncan and Robinson win a title. A dynasty is born, and small markets are validated. 2002. Houston lands Yao Ming just as the NBA pushes into China. Yao wasn't just a draft pick, he was a billion-fan marketing strategy. 2008, the Bulls, with just 1.7% odds, win the lottery and draft Derrick Rose, a Chicago native and MVP talent. The league didn't just get a star, it got a hometown hero in one of its most iconic markets. The pattern is clear. The lottery didn't just reward bad teams, it rewarded stories. Which brings us to the modern era, where things go from suspicious to borderline surreal. The deeper you go into the modern lottery era, the harder it gets to ignore the patterns. Let's start with Chris Paul. In December 2011, the Lakers made a deal to acquire Paul in a 3-team trade with Houston and New Orleans. The trade would have paired Paul with Kobe Bryant in his twilight years. But the NBA stepped in. More specifically, David Stern, who at the time was acting as the de facto owner of the Hornets, since the league had taken over the team during a sale. New Orleans had been struggling as a franchise. The city was still recovering from Hurricane Katrina. Stern vetoed the trade. He said it wasn't in the team's best interest. All decisions are made on the basis of what is in the best interest of the Hornets, Stern said in a statement at the time. In the case of the trade proposal that was made to the Hornets for Chris Paul, we decided, free from the influence of other NBA owners, that the team was better served with Chris in a Hornets uniform than by the outcome of the terms of that trade. 6 days later, the Hornets traded Paul to the Clippers instead, where he joined a young Blake Griffin and helped turn Lob City into must-see TV. The Lakers were left empty-handed. Kobe never got his 6th ring. Fans started asking the obvious question: why block the Lakers deal and approve the Clippers one? And it gets deeper. That same season, the Hornets finished near the bottom of the standings, and in May 2012, just months after the CP3 drama, they won the draft lottery. A league-owned team, a 13.7% chance, and they hit the jackpot. They jumped to number 1 and draft Anthony Davis. So, the league controls the team, vetoes a trade that helps the Lakers, and then lands a superstar talent as a parting gift before selling the franchise to new ownership? Suspicious? Maybe. Strategic? Definitely. Because AD didn't just stabilize the Hornets, he made them valuable. A team with a franchise star is a team worth buying. And sure enough, a few months after the draft, the Hornets were sold to Tom Benson, owner of the New Orleans Saints. Clean narrative, clean legacy, clean money. And this is just the beginning. The years that follow only crank up the suspicion. In 2010, LeBron James left Cleveland and took his talents to South Beach. The Cavaliers were in ruins. Fans burned jerseys, the team collapsed. From a detached perspective, the NBA's most valuable star had left one of its least valuable markets. Cleveland was vulnerable. But then the lottery stepped in. In 2011, the Cavaliers won the number 1 pick with just 2.8% odds. They selected Kyrie Irving from Duke, an electric, marketable guard to help keep the lights on in Cleveland. But they weren't done. In 2013, they won the lottery again. Then in 2014, they won it again. 3 number 1 picks in 4 years. A team in free fall somehow pulled off the most improbable lottery run in modern history. And right after that 3rd win, LeBron came home. The Cavaliers traded their most recent number 1 pick Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love. And just like that, Cleveland went from tanking to title contender overnight. A superstar leaves, the team wins 3 lotteries, a new core is built, and the superstar returns. You couldn't write it better if you tried. And that's the point. Because when the Cavs raised the trophy in 2016, it wasn't just a basketball win. It was a full circle redemption arc for LeBron, for the Cavaliers, and for the league. By 2019, the NBA had already pulled off one miracle in New Orleans, but they weren't done. Anthony Davis, their franchise player, had demanded a trade. He was Clutch Sports affiliated, LA bound, and very publicly over the small market experiment. The league was on the verge of losing another superstar from a city still trying to build a basketball identity. And then came the lottery. With just a 6% chance, the Pelicans won the number 1 pick. The prize, Zion Williamson, a viral phenom, a box office draw, the most hyped prospect since LeBron. The timing couldn't have been any better or more suspicious. Because even though AD was technically still on the roster, everyone knew he was gone. The Pelicans weren't just heading into a rebuild. They were in danger of becoming irrelevant. Then, salvation. One superstar out, another one in. And the city barely had time to panic. A month after winning the lottery, New Orleans officially traded AD to the Lakers. A clean handoff. A new era. And for the league, a perfect story. The Pelicans didn't lose star power. The Lakers finally got their big man. And the NBA? It keeps the spotlight balanced just the way it likes it. The most recent lottery conspiracy didn't start with ping pong balls. It started with a trade. Luka Dončić to the Lakers. One of the most shocking trades in NBA history. A 24-year-old generational talent, still in his prime, sent to LA in exchange for a 32-year-old big man who is known for being injury-prone, aka street clothes. Anthony Davis, the same AD who once forced his way into LA, was now the return for Luka Dončić? It didn't make sense. Not on paper, not on TV, which is why the conspiracy theories come so easily. The league had to be involved. There's no way that deal happens without some kind of backroom promise. This wasn't a basketball trade. This was a setup. Because in one move, the NBA got everything it wanted. LeBron's final years are no longer about holding on with AD. They're about passing the torch to Luka, a global superstar in the NBA's favorite market. Luka in LA sells tickets. Luka in LA draws ratings. Luka in LA extends the LeBron era in a way no one saw coming. But here's where it gets even more suspicious. After the trade, the Mavericks cratered, missed the playoffs, and entered the lottery with less than 2% odds of landing the number 1 pick. And somehow, they won it. The Mavs are now poised to draft Cooper Flagg, a Duke prodigy, a projected two-way force, and a marketable white American star the NBA has been missing since Larry Bird. Luka's gone. But now the Mavs get the first years of Flagg, a possibly generational talent, on a rookie contract with time to build around him. And just like that, the deal makes sense. The Lakers get Luka, the Mavs get Flagg, and the NBA gets another perfect narrative. Balanced, bankable, and suspiciously poetic. Sports have always had their rituals. Umpires in armor, chains for first downs, hockey fights for justice. None of it makes sense logically. But it's not supposed to. It's part of the circus. And in the NBA, the draft lottery plays its role, center stage. From frozen envelopes to Luka for Flagg. These moments aren't random. they're crafted. To keep the league compelling, to keep the markets moving, to keep the story alive. So maybe the lottery isn't rigged in the dirty sense of the word. Maybe it's rigged the way wrestling is rigged. Predetermined, not predictable. Structured, strategic, suspiciously poetic. Is it fair? Maybe not. Is it broken? Not even close. It's working exactly as designed. And whether you believe it or not, you'll be watching next year. We all will. And when it happens again, we'll run it back.